Alright guys, so the crankshaft is out. We're on the bare block now. As you guys can see, there's no crankshaft, but I had to put the cover for the timing. I just took the guides out and the tensioners. The reason why you want this in place when you bring it to a machine shop, in this case I'm going to ask them to DAC the block as well, right? So they're gonna make sure the block is flat. It's a flat surface, so you want the timing cover as well, because if you take material out of the block and you don't have the timing cover, once you put the timing cover on, the timing cover is going to be higher than the block. So you want to do as one piece to cut one piece, and everything will be even, the same height, and you're not going to see a bump here. So this is it. Crankshaft is out. I found that there was somewhere on the main bearings, so there was definitely contact with the crankshaft. I'm trying to find the worst one. As you can see, it's shiny a little bit here on the left side. This is not the worst one. Still, there's one that's really bad. I believe it's number 7, because it's one of the last ones to get oil. So as you guys can see, there was definitely contact there with the main bearings and the crankshaft, so those are going to get replaced as well. And I'm going to bring the crankshaft to the machine shop as well and ask them to micro polish the crank, because as you can see, once it touches the bearing, there's like a little mark here on the crank, and I want that off as well. So we're gonna ask them to micro polish the crank, DAC the block so we can size the pistons, bore the block, and bring back to assembly so we can, you know, fully build this S54. So let's go bring it to the machine shop. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. This is Doug Machado. Today we're going to be building my S54 for my E46 M3 drift car, and I finally had some time today. I've been out of the channel for a minute because I'm dealing, you know, with opening my own shop. I'm gonna be getting out of the garage. It's too small for me now. I'm getting too many customers. Thankfully, I'm very thankful for that, and I need to expand. I need to find a bigger place. So I'm in the process with that, but now I had some time with, you know, finishing the customer cars I had here. So today I'm gonna be putting my engine together. So we're gonna start by putting the pistons together on the rods. So let's get to it. So I have the pistons on the rods now. Now I gotta unpack the block, unpack the crank, put the crank on the block. Actually, put the block on the stand, put the crank on the block, and then assemble the pistons and everything else. So everything looks super nice. I'm very clean when I'm doing this type of work. I'm constantly checking my hands for like debris and dust, and cleaning constantly when I'm doing this, because I don't want any debris, any dirt to get in here. And I don't know about you guys, but me, right now, it's 10 o'clock at night. This is the best time for me to do this type of stuff, this type of work. It's quiet. It's, you know, everybody's sleeping in the house, and it's just like I work better by myself with no one around me, just me and the parts. Nice and quiet, nice and peace. So here's the crank. Here's the block. I put a bag over it. Just, you know, I was doing a lot of grinding work and welding, so I didn't want any dust to contaminate the block. Crank is in a bag. I had the front timing cover welded for oil line return. I like doing it here on this side little corner. It's perfect. It was made for it. I did the same thing on my S52 M52. So now let's get this block out of here. Let's put it on the stand, pull all these parts out. This is all from the E46. That's the end body harness with the engine harness. So let's pull the stand out. I'll mount the block to the stand, and we're gonna start assembling these parts. All right, guys, so this is the part I've been waiting for so long. I have this part sitting in my garage for a minute, and I just wanted to compare the weight of the piston with the rod and rings to the stock one. I just checked all the ring gaps, and they're all okay now, and I'm going to install the pistons in a minute. But before we do the installation, I've been dying to do this. I did it already, so I'm just gonna show you guys what a crazy difference Okay. Trying to get in the center as much as possible here. All right. So 1,117 grams. Oops. 1,117 grams. That's the stock piston and rod. Looks gunky, dirty. That's gasoline. Gasoline will do that to your engine. When you run on E85, it doesn't get that dirty, which is the beauty of E85. Now, look at that difference. It's insane. Insane. Ooh, even less. This is incredible. So that difference times 6, we're saving about 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram in rotating mass in that engine. So this should rev, like, you should have no problem revving up. It's gonna be interesting. 1 kilo in rotating mass that we're saving with those pistons and rods, and they're stronger than the stock ones. I couldn't believe. All right, so let's get to the installation. Okay guys, so now I'm putting the rings on the pistons. There's a lot of misconception about installing rings. Every person does it differently. I usually follow whatever the manufacturer recommends, okay? And a little bit of common sense goes a long way. So you just follow this chart here and you'll be okay. So we're installing the oil rings first. On the position they tell you to. And once you do the first and second one, everything else becomes muscle memory, and it's just you go on autopilot, you know, cruise control type of thing. Your body does it and you don't even realize. Just got to make sure they're nice and loose in there. They're not binding like this one is right now. I don't know why. So if it's binding and it's not moving freely, remove everything, start from 0. Because you only get one chance to get it right, and you could definitely mess it up. So you put the oiling ring first. There's a tool to install rings. I don't really like using it. I like to feel with my hands. This is a very sensitive part, so you want to have feel for it. You know, you want to feel what he's doing. So with the tool, there's no way you're gonna feel what you're doing. You're gonna feel it binding or not. So that's why I like doing it by hand. By hand, nice and freely, moving in there. So now we can go to the next one. All right, so this is the second compression ring, which is the ring that kind of cleans the cylinder wall from oil. There's like a notch, you guys can see here. there's a notch on the edge of the ring. If you look there, so that goes facing down like this, and there's a number 2 on top of the ring. As you can see there, that number is always facing the upper part of the piston. Try not to twist it up too much, because if you twist it, you could definitely crack these rings. It's very sensitive. Now it's the compression ring, top ring, same deal. The color is a little bit different. This one's more chrome looking than the other one. The other one's kind of like blackish looking. And same deal, you have the stamp on the ring. Trying to focus here. Anyways, you have a stamp. That stamp goes facing up. So let's go here. And now you don't have to position. The only ring that you're going to position, which kind of stays in the spot when you're putting it together, is the oil ring. So that one stays there, but the other ones are constantly moving, so I wouldn't worry about putting on the exact spot where it has to go now, because you're gonna have to check it again once you're putting it in the engine. They might rotate and come out of place as you move the piston. So once you're going down with the piston in the block, you have to make sure they're in the right position. And oil, guys, like you want to fill this thing up with oil when you're installing it, and you want to move them around, right? Not rotating, but you want to move side to side with oil in between, so the oil gets all over the rings, behind the rings. So once you first start the engine, nothing is gonna bind, nothing is gonna scratch. So all the rods are installed, pistons, and torqued. This thing takes a crazy amount of torque. It's about 25 newton meters and 75 degrees, but by the time you hit the 75 degrees, it's just so much torque. And this crank looks so good, looks amazing. I don't know if I mentioned before in the video, but this is a forged crank from factory on this S54. So let's spin it around a little bit for you guys. So when you're building this, it's good to, every time you put one piston, you rotate it. Put another piston, rotate it. Put another one, rotate it, just in case if something is binding, you know, is the actual piston that you're putting in that's causing, or whatever else. So that's why I like to go by that rule. Got all my torque specs here. Always follow the manufacturer recommendations. With the Carrillo rods, on the side of the box here, it tells you what bolts you have. I got a 3/8 Carrillo PS. So you go down here, PS is the threads, So that's what I have there. Excuse my screwdriver in the way. So 3/8/24 Carrillo rod bolts, PS. So it gives you the metric and standard measurements. So it's about 10 foot-pounds, 10 to 18 foot-pounds, 14 to 24 newton meters, and 74, 75 degrees of angle. And then it gives you the stretch method. I didn't go by the stretch method because I have the paste. You just have to lube the bolts and you'll be able to reach the torque. It tells you here. So like I say, it's just a piece of information, extra piece of information. So just go through it, read it. You'll definitely learn something from it. And if you go by what they tell you, you're not going to mess up. So I'm gonna turn this thing around and show you guys what the pistons look like. Nice and shiny. This block looks so much like the 2JZ on everything. On the main caps, which has 7 caps, looks so much like the 2J. It's not a 2J, but it's just as good. Some people say it's better. We'll see. I love it. All right, so now I'm gonna flip this thing around again, put the oil pump, oil pickup tube, and then we're gonna put the timing cover with the chain and guides so we can put the oil pan and the cylinder head. I like putting the time cover first. That's the only way of doing. I've seen a lot of people replacing the front timing cover when it's leaking, when it goes bad, and they leave the cylinder head in place. They leave the oil pan in place. That is the wrong way of doing. It's going to leak again. You're just going to repair the problem temporarily, and it's going to leak again, because once you go in, you're damaging the cylinder head gasket and you're damaging the oil pan gasket. If your timing cover is leaking, you need to remove the cylinder head, you need to remove the oil pan. There's no way around it, or you're just gonna create more damages. All right, so let's get going. All right guys, just a little update here. Cleaned out the oil pump, as you guys saw, and I just tacked the nut to the shaft so that doesn't back out on me. You know, this car is gonna be hitting the rev limiter all the time, and usually this sometimes happens with the M52s, S52s, where the nut backs out. So never heard of happening on the S54, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. And in case I have to remove the pump, all I have to do is grind that little notch out. Just notch that out and you'll come right out. Just an extra safety. And now I'm cleaning the oil pan. As you guys can see here, very nasty. So I want to clean everything out and have everything looking nice. I'm ready to clean the pickup tube, just like I cleaned the oil pump. And the chains, I got new chains, timing chain, and the oil chain. So after I put the pump in place, we're gonna be putting the timing cover. All right, better than this, only if I get a new one, honestly. Those marks, I try getting them out, but they don't get out. I guess the oil draining from the block is so hot that it just melts into the metal. But this is good enough. At least the oil that I'm gonna put in is not gonna get contaminated with old oil. And and should be very clean next time I do an oil change on this thing, honestly, which is the goal.
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. Everything just feels like a test that I fail, so depressed when I can't seem to get out. But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that I'm inspired by all this shit. Tell me that I can't and I won't. That's what guides me the most. Your lies, I'll do what I want. The gas in the back of the sun, never leaves. She's so bad that the can't make the right. The gas in the back of the sun, never leaves. She's so bad that the can't make the right. The gas in the back of the sun, never leaves. She's so bad that the can't make the right. The gas in the back of the sun, never leaves. She's so bad that the can't make the right. I'm inspired by thirst, I'm inspired by worth. I desire your worst, so you can just hide while I work. I ain't tired, you first. I'll write a second, third verse about the lies you go disperse. You never did shit, I know it hurts, but something deep inside won't let me quit.
Alright guys, timing cover is in. Nice and sealed. Already put the front main seal as well. Pump is installed. I just can't get over how nice this crank looks. Super nice. Love this bluish color. The forged rods. CP rod bolts. Very nice. So I already primed the oil pump. As you guys saw on the time lapse, I was dumping oil inside the tube and rotating the engine just to make sure the pump is full of oil and it's not dry, so there's no air bubbles once I start the engine. I'm going to prime the engine as well before starting, which is having the ignition coils disconnected, fuel injectors disconnected, and just run with the starter, as well as, you know, multiple turns by hand once I have oil in the oil pan. And one thing I want to touch here, if you have an S54 and you're taking it apart, you notice that this additional pickup tube, because this pump has two pickup tubes, the main and the one up front. So on this side, the chain, once there's slack on the chain actually hits here. You know, once you're on and off the throttle, the chain hits and kind of eats the aluminum, grinds it. So I put a stainless steel clamp in here, which is gonna hold up a lot better than the chain rubbing on the aluminum. You know, this is all oiled, there's oil all over, so it's not gonna grind the stainless steel clamp or the chain, but the chain against the aluminum will grind the aluminum. As I showed you guys earlier, I tacked the nut in place just so it's not backing out, and I replaced the chain as well, the oil chain and the tensioner, all the guides. So now I'm gonna flip this thing over and we're going to be installing the cylinder head. I'm not going to put the oil pan now because I need to remove the engine from the stand so I can install the rear main seal and then put the oil pan. All right guys, so the cylinder head is ready to go in. I have the ARP studs installed and I have the head gasket installed, cut ring head gasket. As you guys can see, stainless steel rings in between the cylinders to seal the compression. The S54 is very notorious for blowing a head gasket because it's so thin in between the cylinders. We're not gonna have that problem with this head gasket. So let's put the cylinder head in and torque it. Alright guys, so just finished cleaning up the throttle bodies. They're just put in place here so I don't lose them. I'm gonna put the oil filter housing now, and now I have to wait for the pipe, the engine pipes, the aluminum one and the metal one that comes from the water pump. Goes all the way to the back. It used to connect to the heater core, but I'm going to connect 2 hoses and I'm gonna go behind the engine and cool off the turbo on the other side. It's gonna be a top mount. Everything's mounted. Valve adjustment done. I'm gonna put this hose here. Waiting for some parts. I had to use the N54 studs because they're a little bit longer than the stock ones. The stock ones I'm not gonna be able to use because this plate is too thick. So waiting for gaskets, studs, and so I can mount the exhaust manifold, put the turbo on top, put the lines for the turbo, return line, feed line, and everything, and the valve cover. I'm waiting for the valve cover as well. I brought it over to my boy so he could put the aluminum bungs for the 10AN hoses. That's going to the catch can, and we'll continue with the job. But for now, this is it. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.